Hello and welcome to the Biz on Fire podcast. And today I have a very inspirational guest, a guest who actually has inspired me in what I do today, in sharing my message. And not only myself, but has enabled many people to start new businesses and also to share their message, not one to one, but to many, and create a very successful business and lifestyle from that. So I'd like to introduce the amazing Andy Harrington. Hi, Andy, how are you?
Yeah, fine, thank you very much for inviting me on your podcast. Sorry, guys, if you're looking up my nose at the moment, but I'm currently driving around the M25 on my way to one of my events. It's about the only time I had that was available in this driving time, so hopefully you can deal with that. So, yeah, and I'm hearing you, Gem, but it's not, sometimes the road noise is a little noisy, so excuse me if I have to ask you to repeat yourself maybe occasionally, but the road noise is quite noisy. Go for it.
Yeah, that's fine. So what I'd like to start with, Andy, really is your journey to where you are now, because you have a very successful business and you're dealing with hundreds of clients, probably thousands of clients a week. Your message, your business, you actually are all around the world. You know, you're traveling. I know that you've got an event next week. Is that in Sydney?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, all the way over there. So I'd just like to start with your journey. You know, where did you start and to where you are now, really?
So my first business was an IT recruitment organisation back in 1998. I started that, and that my first love really was always sales. So I think that's one key sort of lesson everyone can take away from this is my personal viewpoint on when you're starting a small to medium-sized enterprise is that branding and all of that kind of more rounded stuff for me, and vision, all that kind of stuff, that's something for me that comes secondary. The first thing that happens is customers, sales and abroad. Otherwise you end up with all the nice branding and business cards and it doesn't last very long because you haven't got any customers. So really it's about getting out there and doing stuff. So my first love was sales, and so that's how I fell into recruitment and then started my own recruitment business. We started that with I had £10,000 that I borrowed from the Abbey National as told I was going to buy a car with it. That was the original plan. And then I used that money instead to start the first business as a bit of seed capital. That business went on to generate £21 million in revenue while I owned it. It's done about 100 now since that time. I can get close to that now, but I don't own it anymore. And then as a result of seeing Tony Robbins and getting all inspired and seeing how he changed a member of my family's life, I decided I want to do something similar. And when I first started trying to put on my own event and teach sort of Tony's type of material, sort of motivational stuff, since there wasn't really anybody back, you know, in those early days doing it, certainly not by running sort of free events. There's a few NLP trainings and that kind of thing around. But I wasn't very good at it. I really didn't know how to do it. I was very frustrated. It seemed Tony Robbins made it look very easy. Just thought it was easy to put a few people in a room, they'll show up and then you do a good job and then they'll buy your sort of coaching and mentoring, that kind of stuff. But I couldn't make it work. I just wasn't making any sales at all, really. A handful. And then, just slowly started to work. I felt like giving up, but slowly started working. And, over the years of just about managing to keep it going and a few failures here and there, I've sort of figured out some kind of formula, a magic formula I guess I'd call it now, my secret sauce to how to put together a presentation which can either be delivered on a web class, which can now be automated as well. Our one runs consistently every day, runs every 15 minutes, so it's one running right now, and another one running in 10 minutes time. And that really, it delivers something what I call a serve and sell presentation, where you serve an audience and then you sell to that audience a logical next step. And for me, what you're doing is you're giving lots and lots of great information, and you don't really need to feel too overly concerned about giving away lots of free information, because what people are starving for, what they really need, is help with the implementation of that information. And that is what you want to offer them. So whatever you're offering as a service, what people want is a solution to a problem. And so when you offer a service, it has to provide something that means that a vehicle for them to implement something that means they can overcome a problem, because all services are really designed to overcome a problem or to improve someone's life or situation or money or relationships in some way, shape or form.
Fantastic, fantastic. So you've talked a lot about, you know, the kind of service you offer there and that you were originally in sales. What I find with working with many business owners is a lot of them say, you know, that they have all the knowledge about the product, the service, and where it, you know, and where it kind of falls down is that sale. You know, they get scared of it. They feel uncomfortable with it. You know, as though they're kind of, you know, like a fish out of water. What would you say to somebody to get over that hurdle with the sale?
Yeah, a couple of things. Firstly, it very much depends on largely who's in front of you at that moment in time and why they're in front of you. If you don't have good marketing, then you'll need exceptional sales. If you have great marketing, then your sales are much easier because you'll have more qualified, targeted people in front of you. The job of marketing is to disqualify people that won't be interested. And you want your marketing to do the heavy lifting of that, such that your salespeople aren't spending time, very precious time, talking and trying to convince customers that aren't even remotely warm in the first place. So that's the first thing to say. So if you have an organization which doesn't have great marketing to get the right quality of person who's genuinely interested in front of you, then you're probably wasting quite a lot of precious time doing the job that you're trying to get sales people do the job that marketing should be doing.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too, once you've got somebody in front of you, is a few things. Number one, the greatest sales tactic of all is to care more, which is a bit of an odd thing to say, but it's true. If you genuinely really care about your client and customer, and you care about the problem and therefore the solution that you're going to be providing, then that will shine through massively. And it is, you know, it's a shift because you really are putting your attention onto them. And then the other thing to consider is that when you're, as I do when we're presenting, is rather than frame the conversation as a sales conversation or sales presentation, instead see it as an opportunity to educate your client. And what I mean by that is begin to start teaching them stuff they don't know about things they can do, which is also things that you'll be doing for them if they purchase, that will help them solve the problem. And in doing so, you demonstrate that you're not just a salesperson, but in fact you are an expert at solving these problems. And that will build trust, credibility, and authority. And in doing so, you truly serve that client as well. And in order, of course, for your clients to learn effectively what you're teaching them, because your focus is on education in that sales presentation, then their mind has to open, because to learn, your mind has to be open. And therefore, that makes them more open and receptive to any sales message that you're putting in the first place. So give before you receive. So ask and you shall receive is the old way. The new mantra should always be give and you shall receive. And the giving is giving of valuable information in such a way the client can use it, even if they did not buy from you. Of course, it would mean they'd have to do the implementation of it all themselves. And frankly, people are much too busy. They're not normally an expert in solving this problem in the first place. And so they're probably very likely to choose you to do it either with them or for them anyway. And hey, presto, you made a sale.
Great. No, Andy, there you talked about marketing, and you know, what I find with many business owners is people start to market and they get the customers and they come through and they literally, it's like a conveyor belt. Customer would come and then they go. What I've noticed with your business, Andy, which I think is absolutely fabulous, is the retention of your customers become clients and long-term clients. just like myself, you know, you've created a community of people who want to support one another, you know, be involved heavily within your business and, you know, your academy and the university. You know, what would you say to business owners to enable them to keep the retention of a customer to create them to a client?
Yeah, so I mean, this may not always be appropriate for every startup business.
Yeah.
But moreover, what human beings have always had a need for is love and connection. And actually, most business owners are starving for that anyway. So if you can create a community where your customers, your buyers, are not connected to you only, but also connected to each other, then you start to create a much stronger bond that you are the facilitator of. And therefore, whenever that bond, whenever the strands between you and all the others get multiply crossed, then that bond gets much stronger. It becomes more like a family. And it's much harder for someone to leave that family because it sustains them, it gives them something valuable. So it just means you need to create a community, whether you build an online community and or an offline, as in physical meeting type community, where people come together to share best practice, to share ideas, to grow, to get further training and advice. I mean, a majority of people who turn to my trainings, a major part of why they consistently come back to ongoing meetings that they have, that they are entitled to come to because they're part of the community, is not just because of the additional training, support, advice, but moreover because they get this feeling of camaraderie, feeling of togetherness, and that's just equally as important, I believe, as it is for them to feel that they're getting training and value from me personally. So you need to find a way to facilitate that. We also bring in not just the cooperation part, but also the sort of competition part as well, because not only do we have this need for connection, but we also have a need to feel important, significant, stand out from the crowd, one of a kind. And one of the ways that we do that is by having awards every single year as well for the members, which means that the people that have done the best in key areas get rewarded and awarded as a result of their achievements. And that does a number of things. One, it fulfills that need to feel special and to strive for something to be better than perhaps your comrade, your compatriots. But also, it gives them a focus to achieve, and also their success stories as a result of doing that can be captured by you and then used in your marketing further to draw even more people into this community. Because one of the things you want to be doing is capturing their success in photographs, in written word story, in video format, etc. Because the greatest marketing, of course, always the greatest proof is the customer's satisfaction and their delight and results that they have achieved as a consequence of purchasing your service and ongoingly being part of your community. So that's a key factor, because most businesses, not most, but many businesses, if they have a one-shot deal with a customer, so often they won't be around to find out the end game result the customer gained a year later, 2 years later, because they're no longer on that person's radar. And that's a shame, because it's a lost opportunity.
Yeah, totally. You talked, Andy, into when you first started your business, that you had some failures and things like that. What would you say was your biggest mistake that the listeners could hopefully avoid?
Yeah, so probably the biggest mistake was when building the team around me in one of my businesses, is taking my eye off the ball and not making the right selection about the right people in the right places. Being on the road a lot, doing events and doing the key things that I'm good at means I have to trust a lot of other people to do some of the stuff in the background. And there's just a learning curve to go through with the selection of the right people and the management of those people as well. That cost me a bit dearly for a while. Yeah.
How do you know, because this happens quite a lot, and like you said there, once you're kind of stepping out and scaling your business and require new people into it, how have you found that when you've got the right person? What's that thing that you've noticed in the people that you now have around you, enabling you to do what you do on stage?
Can you repeat the question? I think I heard, but I want to be sure.
Yeah, so the question is when you said you had not the right people, and that was one of the mistakes that you had there. Now, moving forward, what's the thing you look for with hiring people? Because a lot of people say, the problem they have is staff or employees and getting the right people. Moving forward from the mistakes, what is it that you now look for when bringing people into your fold?
We typically hire based on character, as much, if not more, than we do on their skill set. Because because the organisation is fairly small, in that it's only a team of less than 12, then a lot of our recruitment come from people that know people. And so, take our sales team for example. The majority of our sales team weren't in sales before they started working for us.
Right.
They were, Max, for example, was working as a PE teacher, for example. James was a personal trainer. So we look instead for, complementary skills that we believe would work well in sales. So Max, obviously, very good at dealing with people. James, obviously, takes care of himself, had worked personally with clients and gotten great results. So we look for those things, as opposed to just that the person's a bit of a journeyman or journeywoman, for example, been through, 7, 12 different jobs, and knows the ground, but hasn't really succeeded. We want somebody that we can mould and shape into that. Even our managing director, Matt Wilson, when he first came, he came as a salesperson, but as time has gone, he's progressed to marketing executive, marketing manager, and sales manager, and now onwards to running the organisation. So we want to really develop people, and we look for character as well as they need to have some idea of what the role is, and we need to believe that they can do it. But we're much rather hire on character and train them, because it's not the first time we've done this. There are other people doing those jobs already, and so quite likely is that we've already got documented processes and trainings they can follow. So we want someone to be around for 5 or 10 years, not just for 6 months.
Yeah, totally. You talked about, you've had your failures. Has there ever been any time during your journey, to where you are now, that in the business type of scene, have you ever felt beaten at all?
Gemma, I didn't get that. Sorry.
Right.
I'm on that part of the road 25 that has that much noisier road feedback. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll try and talk louder. I've got a bit of a funny voice today as well. I was just saying, through business, has there ever been a time where you felt beaten? And if there has, what have you done to kind of keep going and getting over that?
A time where I felt beaten, did you say?
Yeah, beaten.
Beaten as in lost?
Yeah, so like in business, there's been a time where you just thought, nothing's going as I need it to go, as much as I'm banging your head against a brick wall type of scenario.
Yeah, so one of my businesses back in 2006, my first training business actually did need to shut down and close. And as a result of it, I sort of went away and lived in Cyprus for about 18 months just to sort of get my head together and regroup. And when that happens, the first important thing to remember is that you haven't failed, your business model failed. And what that means is some part of your business model, as in either your marketing model, your sales model, what you brought together as a service, some combination of that wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
As in, you were spending too much money in order to make the money you were making. And that's, essentially what we were doing, because we were spending so much money on newspapers, radio advertising, etc. And the product we were selling at the end was personal development. And we just couldn't we just couldn't charge enough money. It wouldn't pay, thousands of pounds of personal development because, I wasn't Tony Robbins. I didn't have that brandness to do so. And actually, a lot of that was also a belief at the time I had as well about pricing and my own self-worth. But ultimately, as a result, therefore, figuring out a new business model, I was able to come back and taught something new to the market because, okay, so maybe I didn't make a business work. Ultimately, the business model I needed to with personal development. But I'd always been a great speaker, so I thought, well, why don't I teach speaker training? Because clearly that works.
Yeah.
And that became a new model to come back with because it's a more, for us, or for me at least, whilst my first love was always mindset, it's a soft skill. And in the downturn, people tend to want to go for something that's a harder edged skill to pay for because they know it's intangible. And so whilst I still do personal development stuff today, it's more blended into the stuff that I do around entrepreneurship and how to do sales and marketing.
Fantastic. So, like we just mentioned at the very beginning, Andy, you're now off next week. You're obviously doing training this week, and then next week you're off to Melbourne. What is it that you've been able to put in place that's kind of, obviously, you're the man on the stage, and you have this team working around you. What is it that you've been able to put into place that has enabled you to expand your business internationally and also being able to just come and deliver and not deal with probably everything within the business? Because what I do find sometimes as a business owner is that many people try to hold on to too many reins and keep the control. So what is it that you've done that's enabled you to expand the way you have?
Yeah, so it's simplifying what you do in that, in terms of our public speaking, it's super simple. We offer people a speakers university program for 4 days and then an academy thereafter. And if we're not customizing our service for anybody. And what I mean by that is, it's not like somebody comes along and says, well, can you do this for us? Can you do it for 2 days? Or can you come into our company and can you teach us this or teach us that? The answer is no. Here's what we do. We do this 4-day program. And if you come to that, it's a couple of grand. And if you love that and you're good and you're accepted into our academy, there are 4 different packages available for that. So we make the customer fit us. A lot of the time, especially when it comes to services, what we often find, especially if you work with companies and corporates, is they always want you to provide a tailored, customized service specifically for them.
Yeah.
Now, that's a problem when you're small because you're the customizer. And there's a lot of work that goes into customizing something for a client. And all that knowledge, all that know-how that you built up through time that makes you able to customize it for them, that should be rewarded in a significant fee, but you probably won't get it. And when you end up doing all that customized work, you can't leverage it thereafter because it's customized one and only for that client. Whereas with my events, the events are exactly the same pretty much every single time, which provides consistency of results and means I haven't got to spend time customizing my presentation or my delivery or the service or how we offer it. Now, that doesn't mean we don't improve it as we go. As you know, we're always doing that. But what it does mean is we're not doing any one-time only things that we can only benefit from that one customer. And I don't actually like it when, personally, we have to bend for a client. In that, you know, if the client is at that stage where they're demanding this, that, and the other for you to customize this, do that, you're never quite sure where that demand finishes and ends. And it sort of puts all of the power in their hands, and I don't really like that too much. So for me, I don't provide customized services. I provide a consistent service and solution every single time.
Yeah.
And what that means is you can scale that business much easier. And it means you can put a team in place that can then knows exactly what they're doing, because all their processes and everything that they're saying and doing to sell it, all is exactly the same. It just means everybody gets better and better. The machine gets more and more well-oiled along the way, because very few things change other than just improvements to your machine along the way. So by just simply putting one person at a time in place, it meant it much easier for me to be released to do the work that I love and are good at. And then we're able to find, other promotional partners as well. We can find other promoters around the world who we can talk to about what we do, because again, it's nice and consistent. Results are consistent, so we know the numbers. We can predict our numbers because it's a cookie cutter machine type of thing, rather than individualized, customized thing each time where the numbers are always up and down.
Yeah. So on your journey there, Andy, everything you've gone through, and obviously we acquire a lot of knowledge along the way as you grow older. And now, what would a 50-year-old Andy say to the 25-year-old Andy? If you could give him any advice, what would it be?
For a 29-year-old.
25. What would you today, Andy, say to yourself when you were 25, with all the knowledge you have right now?
It would depend what their starting point was. Where are they at right now? Are they working as an employee, or are they or are they a business owner already?
I mean,
do they have a business idea? That's a bit of a broad question.
Right. Well, I'd say they have a business and they're in a business. What advice? So it's you, Andy. What would you have said to yourself, going back to yourself at 25, that you now know? Like, any advice you'd give yourself?
At 25, I was off my head on drugs, so I'd probably say, get off drugs and stop being a norm.
It's a good start.
And I wasn't in business either. I was working for an insurance company back then. So,
right.
I mean, most 25-year-olds aren't always necessarily in business at this stage. If you're not in business now, then, what I would do is decide the business you want to be in. Go and work for a really good company that does the thing you want to do. Make it a small enterprise who are nimble, and they provide a really great service, so that what you can do is go and work for an organization and really find out at the grassroots level how this business runs, and take a job there, but really pay attention to how that whole operation does what it does, and consider that a little bit of a apprenticeship almost in how a business is run.
Yeah.
Talk to the owner a lot. Get a lot of inside information from that respect, and then when you think you've got enough balls to go out there and do it, then do exactly that. Get out there and start your first business. If you're already in business already, then ask yourself the question: what kind of business do I want? Because whilst we all want businesses to grow, there is also a good case for not sometimes. And that means that business growth comes at a cost. It comes at a cost of other things, because you can't have it all. So, do you want a happy lifestyle kind of business where the business is great, it makes a profit, and you are, pays you a nice dividend and or salary, and you're really happy, and you've got a good relationship with your partner, and maybe if you have kids, you've got a good relationship with them as well, because the business provides some time freedom for you, then that's a good work towards that. So don't always work. And if you've got a business right now and it's not giving you time freedom, then ask yourself the question: is it more money I want, or is it more time freedom that will give you a greater degree of happiness? And if it's more time freedom first, then do things in the business that don't necessarily make you more money, but will definitely give you more time. Now that might also mean making a few extra bit of money, or it might mean spending a bit of money on extra staff members, etc. Or it might mean doubling down on some business processes so that the business operates a bit more without you. So you download some of that knowledge that's in your head and it can be transferred as a knowledge base to somebody else so that you don't have to do it. So just think about that. It's like, what do I want? Do I want to be, this giant monolith, corporation? Unlikely. Because once you get to a certain level of income or revenue or team size, if you start edging up above that, you start going up above 12 to 15 staff members, then you probably often find you'll make less money. You might make more revenue, but you don't necessarily always make more money, because it brings its own headaches and problems that in of themselves cost money and detract from your nimbleness that you used to have. So sometimes it's just good to say, what do I want? Do I want to grow? Why am I wanting to grow? What's it going to give me? Because just more money doesn't necessarily give you what you want. There's only so many things you can buy. The greatest joy in life comes from freedom of choice and doing what you love. So if you're able to release yourself in the business to do just the work you love, and therefore have more freedom to do the things you'd love to do with your life outside of work as well, then that might be a greater reason to grow or stabilize or invest in the business than just the sake of growing it to make more profit or to more revenue, or just to have a bigger team size, or to be the biggest player in the market, or to be number one rather than number five. That chasing of that might be an illusion. It might not be something that gives you what you want. You might just think that's the done thing to keep on growing. And maybe that's me speaking as a 50-year-old, and my values have changed a little bit since I'm 50. In that, sorry, I keep robbing you a bit there. As in, I'm 50 now, so with all that kind of knowledge and know-how behind me, and X number of years ahead of me, it's like, what do I want? What gives me the greatest joy, freedom, and happiness? And whilst I do want to grow and be bigger, and I've grown and got bigger, but I'm not really that much happier from the size of the business than I was before. What's given me the greatest joy and happiness is the more freedom I have to just be doing the stuff that I love, which for me is anything relating to writing marketing materials, copy, and doing adverts and videos for content for social media, and of course staying on various stages. That's it. I don't do any of the other stuff. That's taken care of by other people now. And that's the greatest joy and freedom of all for me. So just an interesting question for someone to ask themselves is, what is it I really want?
Yeah, I love that, Andy, because in business you can get swept up with being in it, and that I want it bigger, 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 and then eventually that will probably bring the happiness. And like you said there, it's truly that case of looking and going, what do I want? What is this? Because otherwise you can climb the wrong ladder. You can get to the top of it and think, whoa, this isn't where I wanted to truly be. But checking in, like you said there.
Yeah, or you create a giant monster that you either can't control or don't want to control, or is out of control, because the bigger it gets, oh my gosh, it's so much harder to manage. Yeah. And many businesses aren't ready to grow. And what I mean by that is, look, you've got to get your house in order when you're smaller, because it's much harder when you're bigger. If you've got a small hole in your little canoe, well, then you might just need a coffee cup, and you can just, fish the water, just get the water out pretty quickly. But when you're the size of the Titanic and you've got the same percentage size hole in your boat, your little cup ain't going to do the job. So you've got to figure out, you've got to tighten up your business processes, tighten up your marketing, your sales, your documentation, all of that, and only then might be willing to grow. And it's a really interesting question, because if you're not willing to do all of that boring work while you're small, you're probably not the right person to grow. You're probably just entrepreneurial only. You're probably gonna be much happier with a small to medium-sized enterprise, a small enterprise only, that does a really good job, family orientated, trusted staff. Everyone figures out things as they go and happen, and you just sort of grow organically. But trying to grow non-organically, meaning getting bigger because you make bigger investment or get outside investment. If you don't tighten up that ship, you won't get the investment, or you'll lose it. Just something else to think about, really.
No, it's so true. Thanks for that, Andy. So I'd like to ask the question is, what do you put your success down to as you as an individual? Is there something that, habits you have, or the way that you look at things is there anything specific that you could pinpoint and say, I put my success down to X, Y, and Z?
Look, I'm not particularly bright, meaning I'm not very academically intelligent. My maths isn't great, and my English grammar punctuation isn't great. I suppose I got lucky in one way, that I figured out something I was quite good at quite early on in my career, which was sales. So really, the underlying thing I've always been good at is language. I've really been good at words. If I look back at my school reports, my stories were always wonderfully imaginative, even though the punctuation and grammar and spelling was terrible. And so sales by nature is a language-based skill, because it comes from the communication they have. And all that I've been able to do, I suppose, by becoming a trainer, speaker, influencer, whatever we call it today, is put that communication skill on steroids, if you like, in that I'm now presenting one-to-many, rather than just singly one-to-one. And beyond that, it's just a ridiculous amount of optimistic belief in myself that no matter what happens, I'll figure it out and I'll pull it off somehow. And that's blind a lot of the time. When I was a kid, I was fairly good at football. I played for my county, I played for my district, I played for my school. And I'm small today, I'm only 5'7", plus the 18 on a good day. And even though back then when I was in school, I was so small. I was like one of the tiniest kids ever, and yet I still played football against really big kids. And like, you would think at that level, there's no way I'd win the headers, because I was almost half the size of the other kids, and yet I was one of the best heading footballers in the team. And that's because I figured out a way to win headers as a small guy, which is basically to leave it to the very last minute when they thought they had the header. I'd suddenly come in from there out of left field, out of nowhere, and get up above them and just flick it on. So I always find a creative, resourceful way to try to solve a problem, I suppose. And you've got to have that. That's the entrepreneurial gene. The entrepreneurial gene is like, I'll figure it out. I'll be okay. This will work out. I don't know who said it. I think it might have been the guy who created LinkedIn actually, but said that what entrepreneurs do is we jump off cliffs and build planes on the way down.
Yeah.
And that's kind of true. That's the entrepreneurial thing, and that's what's right to get you started. And I guess I've been fortunate enough to and done it long enough now to realize my limitations and to bring other people into the organization that are better at managing the organization, because that's not something I'm particularly good at or even enjoy.
Yeah. So just to finish off, Andy, from everything you've said, like lots of nuggets there, great advice. What 3 things would you say are the key ingredients to having a successful business then?
Well, the most important thing of all is you have to have something unbelievably good to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. That is the number one thing. If you, with all the best will in the world, all your sales, all your good marketing, if your product or service is either highly commoditized, meaning there's a zillion other people provide it at a much cheaper price than you, or it's just basically crap, you're just polishing a turd. So it doesn't really help you very much, right? So you've got to have something really good to sell that's really good. You need to know who you're selling it to. Who is this marketplace? Who is that client? Who is that customer? Do you have a strong affiliation with that particular type of customer or client? Meaning, are they like you? Do you know people that are like them? Can you communicate to that kind of a person? Because, if your target market for your product is, I don't know, let's say financial directors, you're crap with numbers. You've never been a financial director. You don't know financial directors. I'm sorry, but you are doomed to fail because there's just a massive disconnect. So you've got to be able to empathize, understand, and care very deeply about your client. And you cannot do that if you just don't have any connection or affiliation with that type of person. So number one is, have you got something amazing to sell? Number 2 is, who are you selling it to? And the third one is do they want it?
Yeah.
Like, you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody really wants it, then you're basically doomed to fail again. So you've got to have that, and that's key. And only once because then marketing is so much easier, selling is so much easier when all those things are aligned up. And I find out that so many people, in business, there's 3 things you can focus on. A lot of people focus on, which is marketing and selling, technology, and then the thing that they sell, the product. And you've got to do the right order and sequence. It's like having something, great product, great service, then it's marketing, and third is its technology. But I find people do it the wrong way around. They're chasing this technology, this magic, software or button that helps you do this, that, and the other. You're not even ready for that until you've figured out, what it is you're selling, who you're selling it to, and are really clear on all of that. And then you can focus on marketing, and then you can focus on technology to start automating it and make it easier for yourself, but only in that order and sequence.
Great. Thank you, Andy. Sorry, I was losing my voice there and interrupting you there with some coughing. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
So I just want to say thank you, Andy, for all your great tips and advice. A lot of people can get so much from that. So if anybody, I would like you just to share where people can find you if they're looking to kind of understand how to share their message one-to-many, and also learning how to kind of, maybe somebody right now might be listening and thinking, that's a business I want to go into, learning how to do this and share my knowledge and expertise. So where could somebody find you, Andy, and connect with you?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, we run a web class on a regular basis. I think people find that really useful and helpful. Runs for about a couple of hours. So they could simply just, going to the andyharrington.com website would be a good start. So andyharrington.com. It is actually currently being updated, so they might end up, depending on this, get the old version. But I hope by the time they listen to this, they'll be getting the new version because it's ready in the next couple of days. And as soon as they land on that, they should see some links there to the web class itself. Other than that, they can get my book, my book, Passion into Profit. Just get that simply on Amazon. Passion into Profit. That's a great place to start. So that, yeah, probably one of those two things, really. Yeah, just andyharrington.com or Passion into Profit would probably get them somewhere in the region of my sort of little world. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. That's super. Well, thank you for spending the time with us today and sharing lots of wonderful advice. You've been there, you've done it, and you've made a fantastic business as well. So thank you for sharing that with everybody today.
No, you're very welcome, Gemma. And I'm glad and pleased to serve your community. And just to finally say, both to you personally, well done for all of your success that you've had in the last year and a half or so since you've been a part of our academy, and also to your amazing partner, Stephen, of course, who's done some amazing work. And I know it's not easy for you being both the partner of someone who's running a business and running your own business too. You always seem so both aligned and happy, both of you as well. So my hat's off to both of you, and I wish your community all the best. And good timing, because I've just arrived at the hotel to run my event. So perfect.
Super, thank you.
Literally go to the car park, up the car parking ticket. I'm ready to go.
Oh, super. Well, thank you, Andy.
All right, Jem. See you later.
Thank you so much. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye.